Welcome to Morning Joe and the Pro. I'm Marco D'Angelo sitting in for the Prez today, and I've got the other big man. I already had Brian Leonard on with First Pitch this morning, and now we've got Ralph Michaels from Cal Sports. Ralph, how you doing this morning?
Doing good, Marco. Couple more playoff games, always an exciting time. So looking forward to see how some of these teams rebound tonight.
Yeah, well, as I said, I already did a show this morning, Ralph, with our boy Brian, and I found out some information this morning that I just misunderstood this. We're meeting up with Brian, later tonight, and he was talking about this and, going to see Sweet and all this, and I just found out it's a band. I thought we were going to get Sweets, and that's the only reason I signed up for this, and now he tells me it's a band.
Yeah,
were you aware of this?
Marco, that's just going to make me pull out another joke about you. For those that didn't listen to our podcast, Marco was talking about meeting with his trainer in Pittsburgh, and when Kelly in Vegas talks trainer, it's a personal trainer at a gym. For those that ever hear Marco meeting his trainer, that, of course, is his horse trainer and nothing to do with physique or meeting at a gym.
All right, buddy. Thanks. No problem. We want to bring up highlights. Did anybody catch the podcast yesterday? Before we start today's show, where's your phone?
My phone is right here.
Put it in your pocket.
He's off. Don't worry.
Put it in your pocket, okay?
I'm not usually one to be so reliant on a phone, but someone had texted me, and I answered a text for those that now have to hear the story. And we were talking with one of the CG guys, Wilford, the money line guy at Twitter, and he was going over where the sharp monies was, and I happened to miss a question, so I repeated another question. Maybe I just wanted to hear that question again, Marco.
I love the way you tried to save it and said, "Well, I'm gonna." Rephrase this question. It's the same question, but it's gonna sound totally different. Yeah, nice save, buddy. And then full disclosure, even after that screw up yesterday, I embrace my boy. I take him out after we do the podcast, go meet up with another friend of ours. We go to a new bar that opened up in the area over here. Take him. It's a nice craft beer place. They brew beers there and everything else. He gets there a couple minutes before me because I got caught at a light. He, full disclosure, ran a red light to get there. Couldn't wait to get there and order a Miller Lite. And then when I walk in, I get an FU from them because they don't have Miller Lite. I'm sorry. It's a craft beer place. You had to drink, something, that was better than, dishwater. But I'm sorry, bud. I try to help, and that's how you thank me. You're pissed off they don't have shitty beer.
Did we not, leaving the studio, I ask you, this place probably doesn't have Miller Lite because it's a brewery. And Marco goes, oh, no, they have Miller Lite.
Well, if I would have told you they didn't, you wouldn't have came.
No question.
Okay, so I had to do it. But now you found a place to get some German food whenever you're hungry and you're missing Mom's schnitzel.
That's right.
All right. I'm always looking out for you, Ralph. Should we talk some basketball now?
Yeah, we might as well. We probably lost half our viewing audience.
Well, I think they enjoy seeing you and me, not the Prez. So NBA action. And hey, kudos to you. Yesterday, radio show, we have a segment every week or every day on the Las Vegas Sports Line with Dave Koken. Joe's Angle of the Day. And that's sponsored by one of the restaurants here in town, Joe's Prime Seafood and Crab. And you do the angles for that every day. You gave us an angle yesterday in the NBA playoffs. This is just a simple, no thinking about it, just play it blindly. What's it now, 17-1 after Golden State won last night?
Yeah, and I think it's, there's a lot of those. If you follow me at Twitter, at CalSportsLV, that's probably been one of my most retweeted tweets because it just keeps getting friction. But, it's just away favorites of 7 or more. And you might say, well, why does that angle make sense? Well, I think it's because of the parity in the NBA. We don't have parity anymore. We have elite teams and we have bad teams. So, when the Cavs were good, they would go on the road, they would sweep teams, they would win. When Golden State wants to win games, they go on the road and win. So for you to be a playoff away favorite of 7 or more, you are one of those top couple seeds. And I think it just shows that we have elite teams, and these teams that are number 8 in the playoffs don't deserve to be playoff teams. And that's the situation why this is doing so well.
And it definitely did well last night. And you knew once Golden State jumped out to the lead, there was no way they were going to take their foot off the gas last night after what happened in Game 2. Let's talk.
Dave said it's probably one of the most public plays in the world, but if you don't bet it, you are going to be kicking yourself in the ass with Golden State having lost that lead. And I'll tell you what, first quarter, first half, full game, no matter how you bet it, 5 minutes in, they all cashed.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's cliche, but sometimes it is hip to be square, and that was the squarest play on the card yesterday, but it got the money. Looking at tonight with the basketball, Ralph, let's start it off. You got Toronto at Orlando. Now, this is a game. You've got the Toronto Raptors. We know, again, it's just mind-boggling how this team cannot win a first game 1 of a series. It's ridiculous how bad this team is, but then they come back, and they've done it time and time again. They did it in Game 2. Now we switch venues. We go to Orlando. Orlando was a team that, are they really a playoff team? Honestly, I mean, I know they made a run at the end of the season, but you look at their whole body of work, this is not a playoff roster.
Yeah, it's not. They played their 5 or 6 guys. They learned how to play good defense. I think they went 14-1 straight up down the stretch at home. So, in the NBA, late in the season, you get teams that want to play and win like Orlando does, and they play decent defense against teams that aren't interested, resting players and not interested in playing defense. So, no, they're not a playoff-type roster if you compare it to a few years ago. But you take advantage of what you can in this game. Obviously we've seen this line climb a little bit. There's 5s now, so people are believing that this Toronto Raptors squad is for real, or maybe Golden State winning and covering on the road was something else that made people jump on this Toronto team.
Yeah, and actually, Ralph, I'm looking at the board right now. We actually have some 5.5s popping up at some of the, I would say, the more recreational books on the strip and around town. I'm seeing Station, Caesars, and Will Hill all at 5.5 in this one. But I look at Orlando. They're not shooting the basketball well, and you talk about defense. Toronto's one of the better teams in the league defensively, and they have really ratcheted it up over the last 4 games. Toronto has held their opponents last 4 games. And I'm going back 4 back. 41, 41.8, 40, and 37% in the last game. When you're playing that kind of defense, it is going to be tough for Orlando to get the job done here. I got to look at Toronto if I play the game. It's a situation for me. It's Toronto or pass. I really hate laying this number on the road, but because it is a 1-1 series and it's not that 2-0 where you've got the home team, maybe rallying around themselves and getting that big effort in Game 3. I think I'm going to go ahead and look at Toronto here. I think they're the right side. Do you agree?
Yeah. Let me make one more point on that. Orlando needs Vukovic to score to win. That's their only chance they can win. And I mean, one of the biggest pickups Toronto had was Marc Gasol, and between Ibaka and Gasol on Vukovic, he's 6 of 21 after 2 games, averaging 8.5 points per game. And I just think that continues. I completely agree with the Toronto side.
All right, moving on and going to the second game on the Friday night card. We've got the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. And this is one of those ones where Boston's up 2-0, Ralph, but the games were close. I know Boston, got the job done and covered that second game. And we all heard about Prez and the ending to that game and how bad beat for Indiana backers if you had 7.5. But you look at this Boston team, and the betting market and public has been on Boston all year. Even when they were struggling and they were floating between the 4th and 5th seed at times during the regular season, they were still like second in the betting as far as the future markets were going. People still were jumping on them, even though they were way underperforming. Is that, a premonition of what's going to happen here, that this team, really was just trying to find their way? They didn't play with this roster last year. Remember, Hayward got hurt in the first game of the season. Kyrie Irving was out most of the season last year. It was a totally different, it was the same roster that started last season basically, but they never got to play together. Did it take time for this team to gel? Did it take time for, I know there's been rumblings at different times that, Irving was a bit of a problem in Boston. We know what happened in Cleveland. You know better than anybody else following the Cavaliers all those years. How do you make this Boston team? What happened this season? Why they underperformed and where they're heading now?
Well, if you asked me my top 2 teams to come out of the East before the playoffs started, I said Toronto and Boston. I think Milwaukee is the best team, and I think Philadelphia has much more talent. But to me, watching the playoffs all these years, especially in the East, you have to learn to have been there and done that before you can advance, especially to the championship series. And, I think you watch Boston, and Boston gave Cleveland all they could handle last year without Irving, without Hayward. And you saw those guys play defense. And, right now you got to remember Marcus Smart is their spark plug and one of their best defensive players. He's out this series. He may miss next series. But if they make it to the finals, he'll be back, which would be a huge boon. So, to me, Indiana was a team that beat up on poor teams. They were very poor against winning teams late in the year. They don't score well against teams late in the year. And the Pacers gave the Cavs trouble last year too. But again, that was Oladipo. That was their entire playoff run last year when they won a couple series. So to me, it's Boston. I think it's a sweep. And, Marco, I'll get your take on the game, and then we'll come back to me, and I'm going to give you guys today's Joe's angle of the day, which has to do with this game and the total in just a minute.
Well, my angle here is if you're going to give Indiana any shot at all in this game, Ralph, they have to win it in an ugly style of game. They got to get this game where it's one of those games where you're talking 90-89, or 88-85. They got to keep it as a low-scoring game. They can't win in a faster-paced game. They just don't have enough weapons to do it. So if you're going to go with the old Game 3 angle and down 0-2 for the home team, and you're going to look to capture anything with Indiana, whether it be a first quarter, a first half type play, I got to correlate it to the total. And I got to say that is a correlated parlay where you would be looking at the under if you're playing this game. Now, they have made major adjustments with the over-under. Game 1 in Boston, total was 209.5. Game 2, 206.5. Both of them go way under the total. Now you've got an adjustment again. We've got this total. I'm seeing it anywhere from a high of 205.5 to a low of 204.5. And I don't know that they can make the total low enough in this game. So for me, that's where I would be looking at this game, is I think Indiana's got to make this game a walk the ball up the floor type game, get it into a half-court game, and limit the possessions for Boston.
Yeah, they can make the total low enough. If they drop it to 199, you're going to get some over-bettors. But, the Joe's angle today certainly leans with the under as well. Two different angles, one for each team. The angles are almost identical. And it's the Pacers are 0-12 over-under at home when the lines are between the threes, and they're right now a 3-point favorite. And they allowed under 100 points in their last two games. So when they're playing good defense and they're in a closely matched game, they've gone under 12 straight times. On the flip side, when the Celtics are on the road with the line between the threes and they held their last two opponents to 100 points or less. The only extra scenario for the Celtics is that they have to be off a home win as well. So they're feeling good. They're off a home win. They're on the road. They held their last two opponents to 100 points or less. They're 0-13-1 over-under. So combined, those two angles, almost identical. Pacers at home, Celtics on the road, 0-25-1 or 25-0 to the under in those two teams for the Joe's angle of the day, which will be on the Las Vegas Sports Line, ESPN Las Vegas later today.
All right, good stuff from Ralph as always. Ralph, there's one more game on the card, and I know me and you are going to disagree on this game. We talked about it on the podcast last night, and I want to tell everybody, if you didn't catch the podcast, you could check it out. It is at WagerTalk. We broke down some games for both Friday and Saturday, and then you and I did a deep dive into baseball as well, doing some season reports and having some best bets in baseball. But Ralph,
if you listen to the podcast right now before tonight's game start, they can get 5 best bets.
Yes, absolutely. 5 best bets, 3 basketball, 2 baseball. Check it out from Dave Koken, Ralph Michaels, and myself. And then Ralph and I come back and give you a bonus baseball best bet. Ralph, Portland and Oklahoma City, I said it on videos on Wednesday. I said it in the podcast on Thursday. I'm going to say it again now. This line is too freaking high. I'm sorry. They're overreacting to this market. Yes, Oklahoma City's got to win. They're down 2-0. They're coming home. 8 points is insane. I know if you look at the last game and you say, okay, this is what the line was in the last game, so it's not as big of a difference. I'm going to where this series started. This series started game 1, and Portland was a 3.5-point home favorite. Now they're an 8-point road dog. I am sorry. Home court advantage for Oklahoma City from Portland to Oklahoma City is not 11.5 points, Ralph.
Well, again, it depends how you look on it, Marco. If you take it from the last game, it's 4.5 points, and I clearly think it's that. So, again, our listeners know already we disagree on this game, and I think that OKC, as poorly as they shot 3-pointers, I love taking outliers. I love teams that absolutely tanked on the road because people think they can't turn it around in the NBA. Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth. They can now press the pace. They can now take advantage of Portland's big guy not being in the middle. Paul George was not healthy game 1. Paul George was not healthy game 2. Now, my assumption is he's going to be much healthier. He was 6 of 22 shooting 3-pointers, and he was probably the best on the team, I think, combined those first 2 games. But, you have to remember, OKC was the favorite. Vegas made OKC the favorite despite Portland having that home edge. And it was actually a decent-sized favorite. I think they were 180.
No, the 130. It was like 130, I think.
Picked the other way? Or
it was minus. It wasn't overwhelming, but they were minus 130, 135, because we talked about that in the podcast the week before. Now, it might have got bet up a little bit, but still, you just don't often see the team that doesn't have home court advantage be the favorite in the playoffs. It's just that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it could be sometimes on the 4 or 5 seed, but this wasn't even a 4 or 5 seed. It was the 3-6 seed. So right. It makes it even a little more surprising. So, but to me, I think you have the team that's been there. You have the team that's done that. You have the superstars in Westbrook and George. You have a team that's played poorly on the road. You have a team that's excited and is going to have a huge home edge at home. I'm not afraid to lay this number. It's an NBA game. Teams go on those runs. You make some 3-pointers, and it's a whole different ball game. So, perhaps, Marco, what I'm hearing is that there's a Miller Lite in the offing, a bet on this game, because that way we can put our mouths where our selections are.
Yeah, well, geez, oh man, I did the First Pitch podcast with Brian. I got a bet with him in baseball that we're going to cash, tonight, the winner, and then now I'm going to have a bet with you tonight. This concert's going to could possibly cost me a lot of money tonight, because if I'm feeding you Miller Lights all night, It's Miller Lights with you all night or me eating sweets all night. Which is going to be the bigger tab?
Well, I think you would get tired of eating sweets after a while, but I very rarely get tired.
I can confirm that. I have seen that in action, and he speaks the truth. Let me tell you. I'm sorry. I cannot back a team right now that everybody in the world. Now, here's the thing. I think this line. There's still some 7.5s out there if you won Oklahoma City. I'm taking the 8 with Portland. People are going to look, especially after Golden State last night rolled, and they're going to say, okay, Oklahoma City, they're just going to go full throttle here. They saw San Antonio cover as a favorite last night. They saw Philadelphia cover as a favorite. And, thus far, the spreads have not really come into play, Ralph. It's just you pick the winner, whether it's been a dog winning outright or the favorite winning and covering. So Oklahoma City is going to get the average Joe's money. They're down 2-0. It's must win. The season's on the line. But you know what I say, Ralph, and I said it to you last night. Oklahoma City is in a must win, and they can win. That doesn't mean they're going to cover this 8-point number. This is a team that is not shooting the basketball well at all, and they're playing a team that does play good defense in Portland. You're asking Russell Westbrook, if he goes off and has one of those nights where he goes off for 45, 50 points, it's going to look good for Oklahoma City. But we've seen in the past, the more that Russell Westbrook doesn't translate all the time to Oklahoma City being a good point spread team. This is a team that when he does too much, they don't have the balance. And he's not a good shooter. He missed 15 shots in the last game. 15. He's missing more shots than a lot of guys take. All right? He's just shooting the basketball way too much, doesn't pass to find the open guy to get a higher percentage shot. And I don't want to lay points with a team like that. We're going to disagree. Yes, we're going to have the bet. And yes, tonight when we're sitting on, around the concert and the scores are rolling in, one of us will be smiling, one of us won't be. But I guarantee regardless if you're smiling or not smiling, you'll have a Miller Lite in your hand. That's a guarantee. Any photo that goes out tonight, you'll have a Miller Lite in your hand.
Marco, again, we're going to agree to disagree. We'll see what happens on that. Here's my question for you. What's your favorite Sweet song? Ballroom Blitz? Fox on the Run? Love is Like Oxygen? Little Willie?
I liked, Love is Like Oxygen was a good song, but I like the Ballroom Blitz.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And so
always disagree.
Yeah, but, tonight with Brian, the things, let me ask you this. We're all going to see, we love our buddy Brian, okay? We're going, this is his concert. He loves this band. He wants to see him. We're going with him. If you or I had an obscure band that we wanted for the three of us to go, who would be the first of the three to say no?
Well, if you wanted to make him pay for it, it would be Brian.
Even if you were paying for it and he didn't like the band, Brian would say, go screw you. I don't like them. Try to get him. His wife loves country. My wife loves country. Try to get him to take his wife to a country concert and see what happens.
Yeah. It's all, with Brian, it's all good. He's very consistent. He does what Brian likes, he doesn't do.
That is true. All right, buddy. You want to give a free play to the listeners, or we pretty much gave a free play on every game.
Yeah, out of the top, I think mine's either Boston or the Boston game under. Those are the two that I have strongest opinions on. I don't have anything for sale at WagerTalk today because all four games were not quite strong enough. I had opinions, which all my opinions on these games, but nothing was strong enough on my card tonight. Marco, do you have anything at WagerTalk?
I don't have it loaded up yet, Ralph, because I've been hosting all of these podcasts this morning. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to get it up. I do have a strong baseball play going today. Baseball's been running very, very well. We're hitting 63% on the season, Ralph. And as you know, I release a lot of underdogs. And so that's 63%. Actually, the net profit is even more because of the underdogs that we're taking. We hit a game last night. It was my Diamond Gem game. Boy, that thing was cruising along. 10-2 they were up, buddy. I had to sweat that game. They tied it up, and we won it in the ninth, 11-10. And I would have probably blown a gasket on the strip last night. It was at Caesars. After I left you, come home, let the dogs out, and then headed to the strip and played some cards and watched some baseball. And I was not happy when they gave up 7 runs in the 7th inning and then another run in the 8th inning. And they had bases loaded. I got out of it with just giving up 1 run for them to tie it. So I love bullpens.
Wasn't as bad as Prez's 5% loss on the Pacers.
Oh, no. We all heard about that. That's for sure. All right. Hey, I got a coupon for everybody. If you want to get a 7-day package from Ralph or myself, guys, I really preach about the 7-day packages. The longer the term package, the better it is for you. You're going to get everything that capper releases, and we're going to save you some money. If you use coupon code POD79, that's POD79, you're going to get a 7-day package from Ralph or myself for just $79. It's normally $119. You're going to save $40. That's actually only $10 more than a 3-day package, Ralph. So it's silly to buy a 3-day when for $10 more, we're going to give you 7 days. You get 4 extra days, all the plays, and includes 5% plays. Check Ralph out. Check me out. This has been Morning Joe and the Pro. I thank Ralph Michaels for joining me today. I'm sitting in for the Prez. He'll be back next week. Unfortunately for you guys, you get to listen to the Prez all week. I'll be on one of the days next week with Prez for sure. But have a great weekend. Have a nice holiday weekend. And Ralph, I'll see you tonight. You'll be the guy smiling with a Miller Lite in his hand when I get there.
At the lovely Golden Nugget. And if you haven't gone to the Golden Nugget, great restaurants. Stop and see Tony or Aaron at the sports bar, at the sports book. Great little place. And, you know, you got to have those apps from those places that have their own lines, like the South Point, like the Westgate, like the Nugget. And that's where you find value when you're shopping around.
It pays to shop. All right. He's Ralph Michaels. I'm Marco D'Angelo. Till next time, let's cash some tickets, guys. Good luck.